Hello, today I will be presenting my study entitled Predictive and Prescriptive Analytics for GLP-1 Utilization and Cost Management in Employer Health Plans. This project combines prescriptive, descriptive, and predictive analytics to evolve the GLP-1 therapy outcomes, forecast for employer cost trends, and identify strategies for sustainable evidence-based in benefit design. And this is presented by me, Maya Heibel. All right, so my introduction. GLP-1 therapies such as semaglutide and tirzepatide have become extremely popular because of their strong clinical effectiveness for weight loss and for metabolic health in general. However, the combination of high demand and very high drug prices has created a significant financial strain for employer-sponsored health plans. The purpose of this study is to understand both sides of the equation better, how effective GLP-1 therapies are for patients and how expensive they are becoming for employer health plans. By integrating these data sets, patient outcomes, pharmacy spending, and predictive variables, we can build comprehensive analytics framework to guide the employer to just make better financial decisions and to at the same time help employees. The objective and stakeholders. The objectives for this research project were, first, to analyze real-world weight loss outcomes among GLP-1 users. Second, to forecast a 24 months of GLP programs costs utilizing the whole winter's exponential smoothing. Third, to build predictive models, including logistic regression, and an ROC curve to identify which patients are likely to achieve meaningful weight loss, and finally to present prescriptive recommendations for employers managing these programs and costs. The key stakeholders who benefit from this research include employers, HR, and benefit leaders, insurance carriers, PBMS employers who rely on these medications, and policymakers navigating these rapidly rising drug costs. And then this brings me to my data overview. Dataset 1 contained patient-level outcomes, including the baseline BMI, weight loss percentage, and discontinuation status. This dataset supported descriptive analytics, and I was able to pull this by NG ETEL 25. And this was a real-world semaglutide and tirzepatide outcome study. And then data 2 included a 24-month series of GLP-1 pharmaceutical spending, which allowed me to apply forecasting models to evaluate the cost and the trajectories. And then I was able to pull this, once again, a real data set from TAN ETAL 2025. And then this was primarily looking at the cost among the GLP-1 users who discontinued or switched therapies. And then dataset 3 was a 500 patient procedure dataset structured for logistic regression and decision tree modeling. And I did pull this from White ETAL 2023. And then this was a real-world GLP study of the effectiveness of those that have type 2 diabetes. Together, these data sets provide clinical, financial, and predictive insights into both the healthcare and then the employer decision-making process. And then analytic methods we have, which I've already hinted at a bit throughout this presentation. This study includes 3 significant categories of analytical methods. The descriptive analytics were used to understand the weight loss outcomes and differences between patients who continued their therapy versus those that discontinued. Predictive analytics included the logistic regression and ROC curve to assess how accurately we could predict those who would achieve at least a 5% weight loss response. And then finally, descriptive analytics involved the whole winter's forecast and transition of findings into actionable benefit strategies that the employers can apply in a real-world setting. All right, and then descriptive analytics showed showed a mark between the difference of patients who continue GLP-1 therapy and those who discontinued it. Continued users achieved an average weight loss of around 15%, 14.97, with minimal variability. In contrast, patients who discontinued averaged only about 3.94% weight loss, with the same with even some like regain in weight. Overall, across these users, the mean weight loss change was about negative 10.42%, which most outcomes falling between 13 and 17%. This demonstrates that the GLP-1 therapy is highly effective, but only when patients do stay on it, which in hindsight, I will say that that is pretty standard around like any sort of weight loss. Whether you're doing it through just diet and exercise, you have to obviously keep up what you're doing to maintain that weight loss. And then this was our first descriptive model. This is the histogram weight loss distribution of weight loss outcomes among GLP-1 users in the dataset. We have a strong left skew distribution indicating that most patients achieve substantial weight loss. The highest concentrated result falls between 13 and 17% weight loss reduction. Again, this reinforces that the strength and consistency of a GLP-1 therapy among most adheres to the users. This box plot usually visually highlights the difference between continued and discontinued users. Patients who remain on the therapy experience predictable and consistent and clinically significant weight loss. The distribution is tight, indicating low variability and high reliability of the outcomes. Meanwhile, discontinued users have a broadened range of outcomes, with many patients regaining weight or seeing some sort of minimal improvement. This visualization reinforces one critical insight: the adherence is primarily the driver of the success, which we've also already touched on, that this medication for most is something that you'd have to be on long term. Okay, forecasting results. This cost trend graph represents the 14-month GLP-1 pharmaceutical spending model. Using Holt-Winter's exponential smoothing, I found a strong and steady upward trajectory in cost beginning around $300 monthly, 300 employees utilization, and rising over to 600 within the sample window. This forecast shows continued and accelerated growth, projecting as high as 730 utilizations in the near term. This means that employers will continue to face the rising expenses of GLP-1 unless the utilization patterns or benefit designs change. So this is overall just trajectory is going up and up and up. Predictive model results. This ROC curve demonstrates the performance of logical regression model, predicting whether the patient achieves at least a 5% weight loss response. The AUC value is approximately 0.99, indicating a strong discriminatory power. The most important predictor identified by the models were the baseline BMI, the weeks on therapy, and the discontinued status. This identifies which variables most strongly influence the treatment success and help employers target the adherence support and strategies. Here we are comparing the three forecast approaches: a linear model, the moving average model, and then the Holt-Winter's exponential smoothing. Although linear forecast provides a conservative estimate, the moving average and Holt-Winter's models are more accurately capture the accelerated cost growth rate. All models point to the same direction: GLP-1 program costs will continue to increase unless the proactive benefit of strategies are implemented. So the bottom line is that all GLP models that we have discussed today predict a rising GLP-1 cost, and proactive benefit strategies are essential to help manage that cost. Implications for the employers. I've also been working in employee benefits for several years. I'm actually coming up on my 5th year, and based on both of these datas and real world data sets and these real and just by my real world experience in GLP-1 utilization presents a unique challenge. Employers want to support their employees' health. These medications are extraordinarily expensive and increasingly utilized. Based on these findings, employers should consider either targeting eligibility criteria, adherence to monitoring programs, step therapy requirements, and other outcomes based on this trajectory as well. I think another big one could be family history, just because now we have so much more data on what obesity is and where it comes from. And some people simply just based on their genetics will just have a harder time combating that. These strategies allow employers to support high valued patients while maintaining long-term cost and sustainability. Visual communication and business integration platforms are essential for reviewing models and collaborating across HR, finance, and clinical teams. Tools such as Power IB, Microsoft Teams, Zoom can help stakeholders review forecasts and examine scenarios and ensure the transparent decision making. These technologies help organizations turn raw analytics into clear, actionable insights. And then regulatory and ethical compliance. HIPAA, obviously, a data and security, ensuring patient information remains de-identified and protected. ERISA, non-discriminatory rules, benefit design must remain fair and consistent and, of course, equitable. And then the ACA requirements, coverage, and decisions must align with the essential health benefit standards. And then ethical use and predictive analytics. Obviously, we want to use models that avoid bias and then protect groups, and then obviously promote the utmost fair access as well. In conclusion, this project demonstrates how predictive and descriptive analytics can guide an employer in managing GLP-1 utilization. GLP-1 therapies deliver a strong and clinical outcomes, but also with rising costs require proactive planning. Predictive models can accurately identify high value patients, and forecasting models indicating that costs will continue to rise unless strategic interventions are implemented. By combining clinical data and forecasting and predictive modeling, employers can design benefit strategies that balance affordability with positive employee health outcomes. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my presentation. I really appreciate it, especially because this was late. I've never had this happen in my academic career, and I'm just so sorry. I really do appreciate the time, and thank you so much for a great semester, and I hope that you have a great holiday season. And then with that, also here are all my references. Thank you so much. Have a great day.